Welcome, everyone, to the first session of Can We Talk? This is where the Canadian Mental Health Association of New Brunswick has the opportunity to sit down with others to have conversation about relevant topics. February is Suicide Awareness Month in New Brunswick, and it's time to bring awareness to a topic that affects us all, and a topic that for a lot of people is difficult to talk about. I'd like to take a moment to introduce our guests. We have Murielle Doucet, Charline McLean, and Sophie LeBlanc. They are prevention coordinators in our province. I'd also like to introduce my co-worker from the Restigouche region, Cecile Goulet. I'm Denise Miller of the Westmoreland and Albert regions in the province, and both Cecile and I are community program coordinators for the Canadian Mental Health Association of New Brunswick. So let's begin. Charline, can you explain to us what your job role is in the communities that you serve?
So the prevention coordinators' roles, they may vary from region to region, depending on the demographics and the needs identified in the communities across the province. Our roles in general are to increase community capacity by developing and enhancing partnerships. Some of our actions may be to chair the regional suicide prevention committees and or to coordinate the regional resiliency initiatives across the province. We provide training, we initiate awareness campaigns throughout the year. In some regions, we may create self-help or support groups or provide support in creating such groups. And in September of 2021, the Mental Health Commission of Canada announced the expansion of their Made in Canada community-based Roots of Hope suicide prevention initiative by welcoming the province of New Brunswick's prevention coordinators to their early adopters program.
And Charline, how many prevention coordinators are there in the province?
At this time, there are 8 prevention coordinators throughout the province. There are 4 prevention coordinators through Vitalité Regional Health Authority and 4 within Horizon Regional Health Authority. All of us are members of the community addictions and mental health teams across the province.
Great. Sophie, how long has the program existed?
Yes, the prevention coordinators started to join addiction and mental health teams in November 2019 and through maybe the middle of 2019 around.
And Sophie, if I were to ask you, why is it important for us to have this conversation about suicide awareness?
Well, open conversations are vital to create awareness in the hope of decreasing the stigma and taboos that's still associated with suicide. It's important to provide education on the signs, the warning flags, and available resources to ensure that folks can recognize an individual that may be considering suicide and where they can seek help and support. So knowing the signs and understanding the protective factors can make a difference. Talking about suicide means talking about life and about reminding them of other options, such as staying safe and being hopeful. We want individuals who are in pain from living to be reminded things can change and hope for less is possible.
Absolutely. And hope is a big word, I think.
Yes.
A very important one, yeah.
Yeah.
Murielle, do you find that there's been an increase in suicide since COVID began?
That's a good question. A lot of people are wondering about that. It's actually really too early to know for sure what impact the pandemic will have on the long-term wellness and mental health of individuals. It's a gray area as everyone reacts differently to stress and also at different times. So yes, definitely people's mental well-being has been impacted, most definitely in a variety of ways. However, at this time, there is no evidence of higher numbers of suicide directly related to the pandemic.
Great.
Yeah, and for sure, mental health has impacted everyone with this pandemic.
Yeah, we've certainly seen it within our own association, the amount of people that we're
Absolutely.
now serving. Yeah.
Absolutely. Are there any program that exists in the province for suicide awareness or prevention?
Definitely
And I
lots
would
of
ask
programs.
Murielle, yes.
Yeah, definitely lots of programs. Some of the most common and popular programs are what we call gatekeeper programs. And those are a variety of different sessions that are meant to help people be more comfortable to talk openly about suicide. So Safe Talk is one of those programs. Assist is another one, which is intervention skills training. There's a program for children underneath 14, or people that work with children that are under 14, and it's called the Ask Workshop. Mental Health First Aid is also a very popular program that is offered across the province. And then, of course, there's all the sessions that CMHA offers. And the topics that you offer for awareness sessions are like, it just goes on and on. So, and a few other things that are rather popular across the province are the LINK program, which is a program
Yeah.
to help people know resources and how to reach out to resources. And one of the days that we celebrate very commonly is World Suicide Prevention Day, which is on September 10th. Now, there are many more than just these few that I've mentioned. Each area actually organizes different activities at different times of the year to try to make sure that we are aware of the importance of suicide awareness.
Perfect.
Mm.
Yeah, I know that a lot of my coworkers and I had different events planned throughout this month to bring awareness to suicide. And so absolutely, there are, working with the suicide prevention committees and everything else, we've had lots of events ongoing and still more to come. So you can always check out our website for more information on that. Okay, Charlene, what are the resources that are available for suicide prevention?
So some of the resources that are available to folks in New Brunswick would be, one is CHIMO, which is a provincial crisis phone line that operates 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. And I know that later on in the program, you'll be giving folks the numbers. So,
Yeah.
And then there's the Kids Help Phone that offers free e-mental health services, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. There's the Crisis Services Canada line. There is 211 New Brunswick, which is a new resource that was introduced in October of 2021 that offer information on services available. So folks can give a call and say, for example, they're looking for a family doctor, or they might be looking for a mental health counselor, or they may be food insecure. Then there's Hope for Wellness, which is counseling and crisis intervention line for all Indigenous peoples across Canada, which is an operation 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And then there's the Trans Lifeline that provides support, peer support for by trans people.
All right.
And then there's addiction and mental health services in each zone throughout the province.
Yes. Okay. Perfect.
So there
Okay.
is a lot of resources for people in need. If I were to ask you, Murielle, can you talk to us a little bit about the suicide prevention committees that we have in the province? I believe there's different suicide prevention committees in across the province.
Yes, absolutely. And it's another great question because I know not everyone knows of those committees. Actually, it was in the early 90s that New Brunswick established regional networks, which comprised of various individuals who were concerned about suicides and willing to make a difference in our province. The primary focus of the committees was to provide awareness, education, and support to the community. And originally it was within the three main components of what we know as prevention, intervention, and postvention. Now, these committees still exist after all this time, and we currently have 14 across different parts of the province. So every area would have a committee that would represent them. And these dozens of dedicated individuals continue today, not necessarily the same individuals, but they continue today to organize various initiatives based on best practices in various communities. And all of us coordinators are linked and part of those committees. Some of us actually co-chair.
Awesome. That's great. So people
Yeah.
could perhaps approach their local committees if they wanted to volunteer and that kind of thing, maybe serve their community. They could approach and see about joining the committee.
Absolutely. We never say no to anyone who wants to support and be a volunteer. So if you want to reach out or you're interested, just find one of us or contact your local addictions and mental health, and they'll get you in touch with the right coordinator in the right zone.
That's perfect. And I do know, having been on one of the committees in the Westmoreland Albert area, that we always look for volunteers. You may not necessarily have the time to commit to the actual committee and meet regularly, but at least be there to help out when we're doing events and that kind of thing. So you come out as a volunteer. So that's really helpful and important too. Very important part, because we wouldn't get the work done that we're getting done if we didn't have the volunteers to help out. It's all right. Sophie, let's get serious now. Let's talk about it. What are the signs of suicide? What is it that we should be looking out for when we perhaps have concern for someone?
Yes, that's so important to recognize the signs. I'm going to share a few with you guys today, but you have to take in consideration that there might be other ones that I'm not going to share. So be aware, like it's very important. Sometimes we see an increase in substance use, like drug or alcohol.
Right.
We see people feeling like they have no reason for living, no sense of purpose in life. People feel like anxious, agitated, unable to sleep or sleeping all of the time, feeling trapped, like there's no way out. Hopelessness is often present. Withdrawal from friends, family, and society, rage, uncontrolled anger, seeking revenge, acting reckless or engaging in risky activities, seemingly without thinking, dramatic mood changes, giving away prized possession, threatening to hurt or end their life, or talking of wanting to hurt and end their life, looking for ways to end their life by seeking access to sometimes firearms, sometimes available pills or medication or other means, talking or writing about that, dying or suicide when these actions are out of the ordinary. So some people just write about it.
Right.
It's known that experiencing losses and previous suicide attempts are also risk factors to take into consideration.
Okay, thank you.
So there's a lot of signs that we can look out for, and these are some of them, but there's other signs that maybe if someone is close to the person will notice that something is different, something has changed in that person. So it might, trigger that person to ask maybe if that person is thinking about suicide. And
absolutely.
Yeah, and now that we know the signs, if I were to ask you, Murielle, what are some tips and strategies that can help someone who is struggling? What can they do?
Well, first of all, one of the things that a lot of people wonder about is talking directly about suicide. So I want to say that it definitely is one of the best things to do. So it's okay to say, I'm worried about you, and to ask directly, are you having thoughts of suicide or thoughts of killing yourself? And to be direct with the language is the best way possible. Provide active listening. We don't have to say much. We don't have to solve the problems, but just to listen to them and show concern. Asking the person if they've ever felt unhappy for a long time. And maybe inform them that, this can change. It doesn't always stay that way. A new day can bring new things. Be especially concerned, though, if the person uses drugs or alcohol, because it does impair the judgment and it seems to intensify the risks. Giving the person crisis numbers because they may not know that those exist, and help the person make the call also, just to make sure that it's not a barrier for them to pick up the phone and call. So making it with them is really what would be helpful.
Is making that call, Muriel, reaching out, making that call is probably one of the hardest things for that person to do, isn't it?
It's definitely amongst the top, for sure.
So being a support person would be very helpful to that person.
Yeah. You're definitely right.
Okay.
Staying with them and doing something together. Sometimes it's a bit of a distraction, but sometimes distraction helps things change, helps the thought process move into a different zone. So that is also something that is very helpful. It doesn't mean it's going to make it go away, but our intent is not to make the thoughts of suicide go away. It's just to help the person feel less alone and feel connected to some supports and some help. If the person is considering suicide and does refuse help though, or refuses to make a call, it's okay for us to make that call and to reach out, whether it's to get assistance for ourselves because we're really bothered by, them kind of not wanting to get help or refusing our help, but it's also maybe to let someone else know that someone could really be at risk for their life. So those are some of the things. Now, another thing I wanted to share just quickly here is some very quick, easy things that we can say when someone opens up to us and tells us that they're having thoughts of suicide. Like I said earlier, please don't think that you're supposed to try to fix the problem. That's not what we do. That's not what, it's actually an expectation sometimes we put on our shoulders, but we shouldn't. Basically saying things like, I'm here for you. I'm listening. I want to hear what's bothering you. You're not alone. And let's just talk and see if we can figure something out to help things be a little bit better. And another one that I thought of would be this, by admitting and saying, if I can't help you, let me help find someone else who can. So sometimes those little statements can really make a world of difference, and it reduces maybe the expectations we put on ourselves as a support person or a helper, but also it's because we really don't have all the answers. We're just trying to kind of walk side by someone who's really struggling.
And listening to those comments of things that you can say, they were very comforting. They were very comforting statements for me. And I'm sitting here thinking, at this time, I'm not having thoughts of suicide, and I find those comments comforting. So I'm thinking for somebody who is in crisis, I would really hope that they would also find those thoughts very comforting. And I don't think they would expect us to be able to fix things either. But just to be able to bring that level of comfort that you're not alone, I'm here with you, and let's do this together. Let's get some help together. I think is really reaching out to that person and doing the best that you can, right?
It's really being in the moment.
Right.
And sometimes it doesn't even require words. It's just the presence, the physical presence. It really carries a lot to help the person not feel so alone. So if you don't know what to say and you're worried about that you might say something that's not great, just say very little. Just be there and use open-ended statements like some of the ones I just said, and say, I'm just here. I'll be here for you. And if you want to talk, I want to listen, and keep it very, very, simple that way. It is the best way to go about it.
And I think it's important also to say, like, I don't really know what to do either, but together I think we can go and we can find some help. We can make some calls. We can do something. And hope is and we talked about that also. And hope is a very great thing. It's very powerful for people also. And just for them to express how they feel also and what they're going through, I think that's a big thing also for them to say it out loud. Like now they can see the problem like it's outside.
Well, it's a way to release everything that they've been experiencing, right? It's what they're carrying inside of them. And as soon as we start saying it or talking about it, it's the beginning of letting it go. So absolutely, it's very healing and very helpful to start talking about what people are experiencing and feeling. So
I
that's what we want
remember,
to create. We want to create a space for them to feel that they can start letting things out.
yeah, I remember taking a communication course and the gentleman had said, listen to understand, don't listen to respond. So in other words, just be patient, allow that person to say what it is that they need to say, rather than trying to wait for them to catch their breath so you can come back at something. They need to know that you're listening. So if we listen to understand rather than respond, I think that's a much better move. So yeah, that's probably what they're needing at that point too, is somebody to take the time and listen.
And finally, silence is golden.
Yep.
It really
Yeah.
is. That just brought up for me how crucial. I mean, not for an event like this. Obviously, this is a conversation that we're having. But when you're really wanting to be a support person or to be there for someone, again, even if there's moments of silence or long periods of silence,
That's okay.
that's totally okay. Totally okay.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's really great. That's very helpful, actually. Charlene, what does the future look like for suicide awareness, suicide prevention in this province? What are we looking at?
So as we mentioned earlier, the province of New Brunswick has been accepted to be part of the second phase of the Mental Health Commission of Canada's Roots of Hope project, which is called Early Adopters. This will give us access to evidence-informed practices and tools, as well as the opportunity to draw on lessons learned from the previous 5 years of work in various parts of Canada. So we hope to build capacity within our communities throughout the province. We hope to raise awareness by being part of a community of practice through 5 of the pillars for the Roots of Hope that are relevant to the best practices. The 5 pillars are specialized supports, training and networks, public awareness campaigns, means safety, and research. So it's important, and we do take suicide prevention seriously. And we believe that if we address stigma, it can overtly make a big difference. Because we know that sometimes folks don't talk about what they're living with because of stigma. They may not seek help because of stigma. So it's really important to address stigma as part of that project.
Stigma is a big thing, and I'm really glad that you talked about that, because I know that for people like myself and Cecile and our other coworkers, every day that's almost like our biggest battle is stigma. Trying to reach the people that are looking for those supports and services and resources, and trying to say to them, it's okay to reach out and let us know what you're looking for so we can put that stuff in place for you, or give you access to that, or put you in the right direction, that kind of stuff. Because stigma really is kind of a big sore spot. And I'm going to ask you guys a question, because I've noticed a difference over the past couple of years, but do you find that stigma is as big as it was maybe 3 or 4 years ago, or has it come down a little bit?
That's kind of difficult to measure. I would hope that the stigma and taboos have decreased and more folks are reaching out and more open conversations are happening around, mental health, mental illness, suicide prevention, substance use. But I don't know if anyone else wants to chime in on that, because it is sometimes hard to measure those things.
I know for us, it's made a difference. When we look back to the first year of COVID, like at the beginning of that year was the year of our fiscal end. And we had reached something like 87,000 New Brunswickers through programs and support groups and self-help groups, all that kind of stuff. And then the first year of COVID, it was over 204,000. We almost tripled the number. So I kind of sat back and went, COVID did bring some rough stuff for us, some challenges for us to work our way through, but perhaps it opened doors and made some things a little bit easier. We really took a good look at our priorities and reprioritized things in life. And we started seeing the value in certain things, and we started doing things differently, being maybe pushed a little bit to be more creative, that kind of stuff. But one of the things that I really felt was that stigma, people were kind of like, you know what, stigma can fly out the window at this point because it's really time that I need some help. And they really turned, and of course, going online, I think provided a level of comfort too for people. So I'm hoping that we found a new step forward in the battle against stigma, that people, can be comfortable enough to say they don't have to broadcast it to the world, but if you can reach out to those one or two important people and say, listen, I've really been struggling, then, I think we have a good chance of reaching out and helping out a lot more people. Before we close off, anybody have any closing statements, closing comments?
And just on the same thoughts, as I think it is changing. It is slowly changing, but I think it is. And I just want to share something with you guys. Last week, I was asked to do a debriefing with first responders, with firefighters that went on an incident. And there was this fellow, he was a fireman for over 30 years. And he was saying how he enjoyed the session and how it would have been nice that they had these kind of sessions 30 years ago. But he also said, well, maybe 30 years ago, we wouldn't have been as open as we are today to deal with our mental health issues and to recognize that, yes, what we're doing can have a major impact on us. So I thought it was like wonderful. So this is a sign that we're moving forward, with stigma.
Absolutely.
People are realizing that, anybody can have mental health problem at one time in their life, and it's normal, so just want to
Sophie, that was a great story. Thank you for sharing that with us, because we say there's a time for everything, and maybe this is the time now for mental health to take the forefront and to step up and say, okay, now let's put stigma aside, enough is enough, and let's get down to brass tacks and start helping people. I mean, physically, we know if we're not feeling well, we go to the doctor and we get it addressed. We should be feeling the same comfort level when we're talking about our mental health as opposed to our physical health. The brain is an organ, just like my stomach, my liver, my kidneys, my blood, the whole thing. Probably the most important, right? So I think it's extremely important that we feel very comfortable in reaching out for help. To avoid walking down that road eventually of having thoughts of suicide. I know when my depression got really, really bad, I had reached this point and really struggled to get back up and pulled out of it, but absolutely worth it. I mean, I can't even imagine, I can't even imagine at this point. So yeah, I mean, that's all we want to do is be there to reach out and help and support and provide resources and put them in the right direction, and and listen. Anybody else, any comments?
I say absolutely. And for me, I think we've did a lot of work, and I think it paid off even for suicide prevention. I look at activities that we do in the region and the people that comes out just for that. And also the people who talk about mental health now. Say 20 years ago, like Sophie was saying, 30 years ago, we weren't that open. And I remember when I started with CMHA, I would do kiosks and people would walk by and they would turn their head. But now people come to me and they want to have information, because they have a sibling, they have somebody close to them who is affected with a mental health problem. And statistics shows that one in three will experience a mental health issue in a year, just in a year. And one people in five, will have a mental health issue in their lifetime. So I mean, it's very important that we take care of our mental health and all the stuff that CMHC does and the suicide prevention committees are doing in each of the region of the province. And like Denise mentioned, we had over 200,000 people that reach out to CMHA. So I mean, for me, it gives me hope because we're moving forward, and what we're doing, we're helping, and people are talking about it. So that's a great thing.
Yeah. Well, we've reached the end of our time together and want to be able to thank our guests for such engaging conversation. Charline, Sophie, Murielle, thank you so much from all of us at CMHA for all that you do in the communities that you serve. Hopefully we can continue our partnership of working together with you guys. I'd also like to share with you that the Canadian Mental Health Association of New Brunswick is a not-for-profit organization. It's been around Canada for over 100 years, and that's pretty darn amazing for a not-for-profit. So we have all kinds of programs, presentations, and resources that are there to help New Brunswickers in focusing on their mental health. We have 18 offices throughout the province, and you can find all our contact information on our website at www.cmhanb.ca. And we'll post a couple of videos at the end, or slides rather, that will have some call-in information, some numbers and stuff for your resources. We also have a Facebook page that we invite you to like and to follow. And if you're looking for more information on a variety of topics, you can check out our YouTube channel that hosts our staff doing various presentations. So to one and all, ladies, I thank you for your time, most valuable, appreciate it. And until our next session, bye for now.